New previews just came out for Stalker 2. Little background for me. I played a demo of Stalker 2 at Summer Game Fest, and I and everybody else I spoke to also played the demo. I found the demo to be really rough. It was the worst demo I played at the show. That does not mean the final game is going to be the worst or going to be bad or anything. In actuality, it looks like people who have played the newest version of the game said that it's actually really, really good. What I have come to find out is that it looks like the demo we played at Summer Game Fest was the same demo they had used months before at another event. So it seems as though they were using very old demo software to showcase the game to press and media for some reason. And what they have now, the newest stuff that they just let some people like these guys at IGN try, is much more impressive. And I'm very glad to hear that, because what we played was like, this doesn't look anything like the trailers you're showing. Can we try that? It felt like we were playing a game that was like a year out of date. And it feels like that actually probably was what was happening. I don't know why they would have given us demos that were so old, but you know, I guess what's in the past is in the past. But these demos and these previews are coming out very, very positive. People who tried the game are really, really liking it. Let's see what IGN had to say.
To suffer? Then help me find the culprit.
2 hours isn't enough time to see all the branching stories, admire all the beautiful graphics, and discover all the secrets within the world of Stalker 2.
Who sent you? Richter?
But it is enough to be left impressed. When I wasn't taking stock of my paltry ammunition levels and hunger gauge, I was looking out at beautiful fields of red poppy flowers. When I wasn't getting distracted by an interesting side quest, I was doing my best to lure mutants into an anomaly trap. And while it was over, just when it felt like it was getting extra good, it had still left its impression. The impression that the team at GSC Game World has created something special with Stalker 2.
From Destin, friend of the channel, really good guy. I am very glad to hear this. I'm very glad, because the trailers they've put out over the last few months have looked really good. If we have that, if that's the game, I'm in. It's just we didn't get to play that at Summer Game Fest for whatever reason, but it feels like people are finally now trying that version of the game, and it's very, very solid.
I will preface all this by admitting that I am not a Stalker expert, meaning I have not played the 2009 hits.
But canceled.
I probably should be, because I am a huge fan of games that offer us various options for dealing with a story scenario, especially those where one seemingly small decision can have effects that ripple through the rest of your playthrough. That's what this series, which began with 2007's Shadow of Chernobyl and was built on in Call of Pripyat in 2009, is best known for, and it's what struck me the most from my handful of hours with Stalker 2. I kept thinking about those decisions I had made and wondering if I had made a mistake by choosing a violent, guns-blazing approach, and wondering if I should have tried a stealthy or even fully peaceful one. But Stalker 2 takes it several steps further. There are times you'll have NPCs abruptly end a quest without rewarding you because you've looted the body of their dead friend, for example.
I love that, because we actually ran into this when I was running a D&D campaign. Well, I've been running one big one, but we had a member of the party that did something. I'll keep it vague, but we had a member of the party that did something that was like objectively horrible. Meanwhile, they're playing somebody that's like supposed to be kind of good and focused on helping people and stuff. And they did something that was horrible and like laughed about it. And in the context of the session when we were playing, it was like, ha ha ha, but it was like bad. So the like very next thing, you know, they all go to bed at the tavern or whatever. And I had like the city guard come and collect them and drag them out and like made a big deal of it. Because it was like, this is not what a friend does. This is not what a good person does. And so kind of had to make an example of them. Felt a little bad. But it's like, if you give players the ability to kind of fudge the rules a little bit, they will. I've said a lot of times, like, if you give gamers a way to cheat the system, they will cheat the system, because games are about gaming the system. It's literally a game. So it's always this like tug of war of like, where do you cut off player agency and allow them to do whatever they want versus giving consequence. But in the case of Stalker, it's a franchise that's built around, well, it's built around those consequences and the little details you might not have thought of. because that is the thing. Like you think of a Fallout game or well, many RPGs to be fair, you'll be in combat with like your buddy or like a party member, and then they die in combat or as part of the story, and you just loot their body, take their cool outfit and their weapons and stuff, and then it's like, oh well, I have this now, and nobody ever really mentions it or says anything, and it doesn't really make sense because in reality somebody be like, oh, Tim just died, why are you wearing his cloak? Did you kill him? Why do you have his weapons? Oh no, it would be cause for concern. So I love little touches like this. I think that's so cool.
I'm sorry, Strider.
Have that happen a couple of times and it'll give you pause even when you're doing the kind of routine task that you normally wouldn't even think about.
Suddenly, the
Skadoosh.
voice of Monolith was gone. I felt as if I was awakening from a years-long coma.
Our demo began with that Enter the Zone trailer cinematic before we were unleashed into a small field area covered by the darkness of night where we were hunting for anomalies. These are dangerous areas that have been disturbed in the irradiated area and can reveal powerful artifacts with special attributes on them. And on the graphics front, for both PC and Xbox, these areas look stunning on both platforms.
Скіфе, радий тебе бачити, друже.
This introductory sequence introduces us to Skiff. While we still don't know much about Skiff, we did learn that he seems to be well versed with the new technology of Stalker 2, such as the Gilka 1 detector that you can flip open and use to search for artifacts as it beeps louder and louder when approaching the correct area. Stalker 2 artifacts are basically small objects that give you benefits like a faster stamina recharge. While attempting to plant and charge a separate larger Topaz scanner at 3 such anomaly locations, I'll yada over some spoilers here, because after a dramatic moment we wind up in the open world section of Stalker 2, where our journey really begins, with a main quest that we quickly find sending us on a search for an individual named Squint. But before tackling that Squint questline, I was surprised by just how much could happen in the open world. One example was an encounter with some unsavory folks trying to attack a character bunkered down in their home. All of our
This is unrelated, but I've always found the term like unsavory person or unsavory folks really weird. Because when I think of savory, I think of like a taste. You know, I get the meaning, I get what they're trying to say, but it's always hit my brain weird where I'm like, they taste bad? Why are you tasting? Like, my brain goes through those steps and then goes back to, it's not important. I know what they meant. And then I continue processing the universe. But I swear to God, like every time I hear unsavory person or unsavory folk, I always am just like, what? And then my brain goes back to it. It's a weird thing, I grant you. It's weird. There's some little laughs in Cannibal. Yeah. There's some things where it's just like that. Yeah, it's the same thing exactly like Leo says. It's calling somebody bitter or calling somebody sweet. Yeah. Or salty. You salty, bro? I wonder where that term comes from. I love finding out where slang terms come from. It's always fascinating. You salty, bro? I wonder what salt means. It just means like you're bothered, so maybe you're sweaty, so like the salt on your brow, maybe that? Your tears are salty? Oh, salt and tears. That makes sense. See, we're learning something together every day. This is great.
Footage was provided, so I'll do my best to replicate that with what we were given. Anyway, once I took them out by sneaking around behind them and making quick work of them with a sidearm shot to the noggin, I was introduced to a new NPC character. And on the animation for a second, no matter who you meet in Stalker 2, the character models express emotion and the somber mood is on full display as you sit around campfires on a brief break. This particular new character, however, sent me on a quest to check on his friend, and a chain of other small quests unlocked because I opted to help this one individual who I could have simply walked past had I been mainlining the story missions.
Can we also just appreciate that they have night that actually looks like nighttime? So many games, it's like, ooh, it's nighttime, but it just looks like blue daytime, you know? Like it's actual nighttime. It actually is dark. The moonlight still illuminates some stuff, but it actually looks like nighttime. Again, one of those little things, maybe most people don't care, but I always appreciate when a game actually has solid nighttime. The other game that really did it well was like The Last of Us Part 2. They had really good. You remember that sequence when you're in the it's one of the first times you encounter the Seraphites, and it's like all the heavy vegetation. They have the guy strung up, and then they disembowel the other guy. You remember that sequence? That's really good. I'm not sure if that was at night or if that was just fog. I remember that looking really good, though. That's the takeaway.
I found it interesting because it was an early example of how one small side quest could begin branching out into a larger and more involved story beat that I could have easily missed. Not only are there human enemies to worry about, which usually have your standard arsenal, but there are also larger, more unpredictable flesh mutants and bloodsuckers who are extra deadly and can make short work of you if you're not careful.
So this clip he's showing right here, I think I'm allowed to say this. I don't think it was I didn't sign anything, to be clear. But this sequence he's showing right here is like at the very, very start. And this is a section that I also played during that demo. Already I can tell you what is on screen now is way better than what we saw back in the summer. Like just this reveal, this thing, the first time I saw him, he was locked in like a T-pose behind like that wall. Came out. It was really weird. So already significantly better. It seems like they've fixed a lot of the bugs and things. So T4 terrific. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Flesh mutants and bloodsuckers who are extra deadly and can make short work of you if you're not careful. And there's fields of poppy flowers to navigate, the latter of which sounds quite nice, but will put you to sleep forever if you wander too far off the main pathways.
You can't rest now, we're nearly there.
Not only does this keep combat and the wastelands of the exclusion zone interesting, but it also offers moments of awe as you look out at the beautiful red sea of poppy flowers, knowing you'll need to go in there and carefully navigate it to complete your objective. All that said, when I did finally find Squint, I was given two options: confront him with violence and head back to base, or help him survive and be sent on a completely different story branch with him. At first, I took the violent approach, but when I realized it felt a bit anticlimactic to end the journey with a gunfight, so I loaded up a save just before the encounter and went the other way. I couldn't help but remember the hundreds of hours I played Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, some of my favorite games ever, and experienced that same lingering doubt as to whether or not I made the right decision in a given situation. Stalker 2 had just evoked that same emotion in a 2-hour game session. It may not be special, and a lot of games have used this before, but I hadn't realized how much I missed this level of nuance. While games like Cyberpunk offered interesting beats to explore, a lot of the stories wound up at the same place. I'm left hopeful that the branching paths can result in some wildly different results in Stalker 2's case. This brief session with Stalker 2, which seemed to start us at the very beginning of the game, reminded me just how great a branching style of storytelling can be from a gameplay perspective, specifically when it's interwoven as it has been here with Stalker 2. I can't wait to see what else is in store for the full experience, and I'm able to discover just how far things can unravel. Beyond the branches of storytelling you can explore and the pretty graphics, I also found it really refreshing to be challenged with managing resources like ammunition and food to ensure survival. If you don't eat enough, you'll fatigue easier, and that means worse aim or less stamina, which you can use to navigate a conflict by, say, running away if you want to. If you run out of bullets, your knife probably won't cut it in many situations, but you can try to instead use the environment to your advantage by luring your opponents into an anomaly. This kind of resource management lends nicely to the overall feeling this oppressive world is trying to convey, and it reminds me that every fight should be considered a calculated risk. Do I unload with my AK ammo that I'm very short on, or do I try and use a bit of stealth here? Can I get away with using a pistol, or do I need to get extra aggressive with these bigger enemies? Do I tackle this during the night when I can use darkness to my advantage, or would I rather use the sunlight to my advantage for clearer sight? The fact that the designers at GSC Game World have struck a balance with how much they give you, at least early on, with the scenarios you're put in, makes it feel like it's in a great spot right now. Hopefully this sticks for the rest of Stalker 2 and you don't become overpowered by the end of the campaign, because this feeling of desperation is what it's all about.
I wonder what's out there. Eternal Spring? The Klondike of artifacts? A new home?
I'm left with eagerness to get back into the world and see what other trouble Skiff gets into. Even though November 20th is right around the corner, Stalker 2 can't come soon enough. In the meantime, check out the Stalker 2 gameplay, and for more on all things gaming, keep it right here at IGN.
I mean, it's great to hear. Again, it's exactly what you would hope to see, is that they are continuing to polish. There's branching narratives, there's consequence, there's a lot here. And the fact that this was actually played by people, that gets me much more confident. Because, again, we saw trailers that looked pretty good like this 6 months ago, but nobody had played these sequences as far as I'm aware. But now that people are actually playing these sequences and are saying, no, this is what it is like, that gets me excited. And it's good to see that they've made some major improvements. So I am very, very glad to see that the demo we played was, at least it seems, not indicative of the final thing. It is kind of interesting. It does bring up the question of, like, were previews and demos at like an SGF? Was that even worth doing? Was it worth them flying all the way out to California to showcase it? Like, honestly, I don't think so. Maybe they had some meetings that was like valuable that justified it, but so much can happen in the final months of polishing a game like this, and it seems like it's really started to settle into place. So we'll see when they eventually send it out for reviews and stuff, see what they can do. But I mean, I'm previewer sounded really excited for this. He may even give it an 8. Okay, that's funny. You got me. That's pretty funny. IGN, this is the game of the generation. We love it, and it's changed our lives forever. 7.5. Oh man. So, and to be clear, it's not just IGN. Eurogamer, Windows Central, these guys all saw it and all had pretty similar stuff to say about it. Final Games, it was after what was an impressive few hours. It's hard to imagine what most studios making even a decent game in these circumstances, but for GSC Game World to emerge from the literal rubble of their home city with something so promising is so incredibly inspiring. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that makes this all the more impressive, is that they are literally developing a game in a war zone, which is crazy. Yeah, the narrative comparison to Baldur's Gate 3 may be a stretch. The two games are similar in another way. Larian's game harks back to the systematic roleplay of Ultima and recontextualizes it for a modern audience. Stalker 2 excavates a bunch of semi-forgotten ideas about open world gaming in an age of Clockwork Souls-likes and heavily curated experiences like God of War Ragnarok. The flexibility and adaptability of Stalker 2's irradiated sandbox is refreshing and intriguing. People are eating it up. So I'm glad to hear. I really hope they pull it off and the final game is on that same level. Wish them the best of luck as they do it. He took my thing.